On Fios One News, a private jet carrying a popular rapper makes an emergency landing at Stewart Airport. We are live on the scene.
And breaking news, a partial verdict in the Paul Manafort trial. We break down what the jury could agree on and what counts were thrown.
Plus, President Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, makes a plea deal that could send him to prison. It's over hush money he paid to several women on behalf of the president.
And a man who's believed to be the last known living Nazi collaborator is being deported to Germany from Queens following an order from President Trump. Now, a local congressman is praising the effort.
Fios One News Now.
And good evening. Welcome to Fios One News Now. I'm Brian Webb, in tonight for Mike Gillian.
And I'm Courtney Kane. Thanks so much for joining us. A lot of news for you today. We'll get to all that in just a moment. But first, a check of that forecast.
Meteorologist Joe Chaffee standing by in the Weather Center. Hi, Joe. How we doing?
Hey, Brian, Courtney, got our eyes on the radar. There's some showers and some thunderstorms and some heavy thunderstorms out to the west in Pennsylvania. But it looks like most of them are going to be coming here after the evening commute is done. Not much happening in the Hudson Valley. We're pretty quiet across North Jersey, though clouds are moving in. A couple of spot showers in South Jersey, and Long Island is actually enjoying a fair amount of sunshine here this late in the day until the clouds start rolling in. Temperatures are in the 70s. We'll take a complete look at the forecast and the rest of the week ahead of us coming up.
Joe, thank you. And we begin tonight with some breaking news. The jury in the Paul Manafort financial fraud trial reached a verdict on 8 counts, but the judges declared a mistrial on the 10 other counts. He was found guilty on those 8 counts, 5 tax fraud charges, 1 charge of hiding foreign bank accounts, and 2 counts of bank fraud. This comes hours after the jury sent a note to the judge asking what happens if they cannot reach consensus on the counts. No sentencing date for Manafort has been set yet. And no comment from prosecutors about what they plan to do with mistrial charges. They have until August the 29th to say what they plan to do about the charges.
Also breaking at this hour, President Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, pleaded guilty today to multiple counts at a federal courthouse in Manhattan. The plea is 5 counts of tax evasion, 1 count of false statements to influence lending, 1 count of unlawful corporate campaign contributions, and 1 count of excessive campaign contribution at the request of a candidate or campaign. Some of these charges stem from hush money payments made to porn actress Stormy Daniels and ex-Playboy model Karen McDougal. Cohen agreed not to challenge any sentence from 46 to 63 months. Prosecutors have been investigating Cohen for months on possible fraud related to his businesses. We will have more on this development later in this hour. All right, turning now to an emergency landing at Stewart International Airport. A private jet from New Jersey carrying rapper Post Malone is forced to land after 2 tires blow out.
Yeah, Fast One's Andy Madison live for us tonight at the airport in New Windsor with the very latest on this. Good evening, Andy.
Brian and Courtney, the plane behind me, as you can see, first responders are here observing the plane as it landed shortly before 4 p.m. But the plane circled the runway for several hours as first responders and state police mobilized on the tarmac, preparing for the worst, but it was a safe landing. Take a look at some video of the landing. We'll give you a timeline of what happened. Now, this plane took off in Teterboro in New Jersey, headed en route to England when they blew 2 tires. Now, first, the plane was going to land in Massachusetts, but was then diverted here to New York Stewart International Airport. The plane carrying several passengers on board, including rapper Post Malone, who was in New York City Tuesday night for the VMAs. Now, as word spread that Post Malone was on this flight, many of his fans gathered here in New Windsor to watch the landing and see what would happen. Again, first responders, paramedics, the ambulance, state police all gathered here as well to make sure that the plane landed safely, and that's what happened shortly before 4 p.m. Post Malone tweeting out that they landed safely. We're still waiting word from authorities about the operation to land the plane here in New Windsor. Once we get those details, we will bring them to you. But after several hours in the air, again, the plane landing safely here in New Windsor. In New York Stewart International Airport, Andy Madison, Fios One News.
Well, a 95-year-old former Nazi labor guard has been deported to Germany after living in Queens for decades. Fios One's Chelsea Irizarry has the very latest on this amazing story that could be the last of its kind.
Sir, are you a Nazi?
95-year-old Jacques Pauly getting carried out of his Jackson Heights home by a wheelchair. Immigration officials deporting the accused Nazi collaborator to Germany. Congressman Lee Zeldin applauding the deportation of the Nazi war criminal. The Republican from Long Island calling for the removal of Pauly from the United States.
Living in the United States of America, living in Queens with our freedoms and our liberties, and he deserved none of it.
Pauly came to America in 1949, becoming a citizen years later in 1957 by concealing his Nazi service, telling U.S. immigration officials he spent the war years working on his father's farm.
He would not have been a United States citizen if not for lying to the United States government as far as his background.
He's accused of being a labor camp guard at a Nazi concentration camp. The Department of Justice says Pauly admitted in 2001 he trained at a Nazi SS training camp in Poland in 1943. DOJ documents show men who trained there participated in implementing a plan where thousands of people were shot to death.
He has that blood on his hands for all of the horrors that took place decades past that need to ensure we never forget about.
In 2003, a judge stripped Pauly's citizenship and tried to deport him a year later, but Germany refused to take him, so he continued to live in Queens for years.
And it took so long is because you need a strong motivation on the part of the United States government, and you need a willingness on the part of a government who would receive this Nazi.
President Donald Trump making Pauly's deportation a top priority and asked the U.S. ambassador to Germany to do the same. Weeks later, the deportation of the 95-year-old finally came after decades of living in the United States.
A strong message to others that we as a country view our rule of law as our backbone. It should be and will be enforced.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions saying the United States will never be a safe haven for those who have participated in atrocities, war crimes, and human rights abuses. Congressman Lee Zeldin telling me the deportation brings justice for Holocaust survivors, service members, and their families.
We as humans all across the entire world make a commitment to each other to ensure that history never repeats itself again.
Pauly denies ever being a Nazi collaborator, and at this time, it's unclear if he'll be prosecuted in Germany. From Patchogue, Chelsea Irizarry, Fios One News.
Former members of a Penn State fraternity were back in court today for the death of one of their pledges from New Jersey. Today's preliminary hearing is for charges related to the February 2017 death of Tim Piazza after a night of hazing and drinking. The 19-year-old from Lebanon, New Jersey, died of severe head and abdominal injuries. A district judge is expected to determine if there's enough evidence to try this case in county court.
Still to come, a man accused of assaulting police officers with a dumbbell goes to court on Long Island.
Yeah, the charges he faces in connection to that assault, it's coming up.
Plus, a Jewish school in Hudson Valley accused of operating illegally and could be putting hundreds of students at risk.
And preparing for the hurricane season. Now, Nassau County officials are making sure they're ready for a potential storm. That and much more as Fios One News Now continues.